I returned to this village after 15 years. Once, my parents lived here, and I spent part of my childhood in a small house next to their café. It was a simple place, a roadside café that always smelled of fresh pastries, and in the winter evenings, they grilled shashlik, while locals told stories. All of that is now in the past, as my parents moved to the city, and after their deaths, I moved even further away. And now I'm back, with the intention of restoring the café and starting my life anew. But when I arrived, there was a strange silence. The once busy street, filled with cars and tourists, now seemed dead. The whole area, frozen in time, stood in an eerie shadow. The old buildings, forgotten people, everything remained in place, as if no one had ever lived here. I decided that this wouldn't stop me from starting over. It was a chance to reclaim the past, to begin anew, to build something of my own. My wife, son, and I brought our belongings and began restoring the cafe. The first few weeks seemed ordinary: repairs, new furniture, and equipment. Everything was going smoothly, but there was an unsettling feeling in the air. One day, after lunch, our son said he saw a woman in a red dress. I laughed, thinking it was just his childish imagination or a game. My wife, laughing too, dismissed his words. But soon, the oddities began to pile up. First, I noticed how often the lights flickered. Then, doors started opening by themselves, and one day we heard strange footsteps, even though no one was in the house. My wife began complaining that she heard sounds that couldn't be explained, and I myself started to feel a presence, as if someone were standing behind me. But, as always, I tried to explain it away with simple reasons: old wiring, the quirks of the village. However, with each passing day, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. One night, I woke up to a strange cold and suddenly heard a whisper right next to my ear. My body seemed paralyzed. I couldn't move or scream, even though fear was tightening my throat. At that moment, I saw her, the woman in the red dress. She was sitting on my wife's chest, her pale skin almost blending with the white sheets. Her long black hair completely covered her face, and her thin fingers were squeezing my wife's throat. I tried to scream, but my voice wouldn't come out. I was frozen in place, unable to move. I desperately tried to move, but my body felt as if it were bound in iron chains. And then, the door burst open. Light filled the room, and the figure disappeared. My wife woke up, not understanding what had happened, and began asking me to explain what I had seen. But I didn't know what to say. The next day, I spoke with the neighbors. What I heard disturbed me. It turned out that this was not the first strange story in the area. The men I had known as friends began speaking about the woman in red. She was young, beautiful, with dreams of leaving the village. 3 men, who were locals, had taken her, dragged her into the woods, where she disappeared. Later, her body was found, killed. One of the men soon died, his eyes were gouged out, and another died in a car accident on a straight road, despite having driven the same route many times. The 3rd man vanished, and no one ever found him. The stories about this woman had become legends, but something about this story didn't sit right. A few days later, while working, we began hearing a strange sound, a crying, coming from beneath the earth. I was sure it was just the wind or the sound of old pipes, but my wife said it was her. The woman in red. She wanted us to find her. She grabbed a shovel, and we began digging. The soil was soft, and soon we uncovered fabric. I was about to help, but then something hit me on the head. A hard blow, and I fell. When I lifted my eyes, I saw him, the old man who lived in the village. He was one of those who had warned us to leave. He had told us that this place was not for us, that we should leave. And I realized that he was the 3rd man, the one who had disappeared. He was old, but his eyes were filled with fear. He began shouting that this was a curse, that she wouldn't let us go. We called the police, and soon they found her remains buried in the ground. The old man was arrested, and the next day we left that village, without looking back. We could no longer stay in this place, where the past still lived in the shadows, in the face of the woman in red. But weeks later, when we were driving on the highway between Bishkek and Issyk-Kul, I saw her again. She was standing by the roadside, just as the stories had said. I told myself it was just my imagination, but people still say that if you stop next to her, she will get into your car. And no one knows who will be her next victim. This translation keeps the tone and suspense of the original story intact. Let me know if you'd like to make any adjustments.